Jonathan Bearded Blevins here from Is This for Kids, father of 3, and I think that most media marketed to kids is pure trash.
And I am Katie, MrsRuvi, and I have 5 kids, and I think you can probably redeem most of the media that's out there. But our goal as parents here is to, or on this podcast, is to show parents how they can shield their kids from the things out there that they don't want them to see, how they can shepherd them through the things that are absolutely unavoidable in this world, and also how they can share in this really kind of influential space that their kids are going to be taking up. Hey, what are we talking about today?
Instagram. Or, as the great Bo Burnham once said, white woman Instagram.
Oh my gosh. I don't think we're allowed to even go there.
Pictures of food.
I love food. That's my Instagram.
Selfies.
He's describing, at MrsRuvi.
Makeup.
I don't have that.
Buy it. Pyramid schemes. I'm sorry. Podcasts.
Oh my gosh, that really is most of Instagram.
Yeah.
If you're finding us from Instagram, hi.
Hello.
Go check out the podcast on YouTube. Subscribe and give us a thumbs up and make some comments. Anyhow,
Is Instagram for kids?
why don't
No,
you
I
tell
was just
everybody
kidding. You got-
what Instagram is, in case they've been living under a rock, they have no idea what's going on. What's Instagram?
Sure. Instagram is owned by Meta, which also owns Facebook. Instagram is what was created when kids were sick of their parents having Facebook accounts. And then they created Instagram for kids. And now that we're on that, now there's all kinds of other things that we can talk about in further episodes. But it is a social media app that you can use to share still photos, reels, which are like TikToks, if you're not familiar with the word reels. So short videos, short form content. You can actually go live on there now as well. And so you can post all of that content, and you can also consume all of that content, follow different people that you want to follow.
Yes. That first part of that was incredibly unhelpful. Like,
Which part?
When you feel like, because their parents are on it. Now
Oh, come on, that's funny.
Yeah, but it doesn't describe what it is, but it was funny. But okay, so yeah, sometimes people
Now
think
your kids are on Kick, K-I-K. Just
oh,
kidding.
golly, I hope not. A lot of times parents will think that Instagram is the safer of the social media accounts because they hear such bad things about Snapchat and things like that. But honestly, at the end of the day, I cannot think of a single capability that Snapchat has that Instagram does not have.
Instagram does now have the ability to, I think, have invisible messages.
Yeah, vanishing chat.
Vanishing
that
chat.
exists on
So
Instagram.
it used to not, and now it does.
Yes, it has been there for over a year now.
Yep.
So basically every bad thing that exists on Snapchat that you're concerned about also exists on Instagram. Now, this is not me telling you that Instagram is an absolutely terrible thing, but it is basically a way for your kid to communicate with friends, to communicate possibly with strangers, and to post content. One of the things that I did on my own Instagram account, go check it out at MrsRuvi, is point out the fact that if your kid is on Instagram, they are a de facto content creator, opening themselves up to all kinds of criticism from the internet and all of the things that go with that. Things I don't think parents consider.
Yeah, no, 100%. So they are a content creator, and they are almost certainly a content consumer. And who they're following, or now thanks to the For You section of different apps now, which Instagram it's not explicitly called For You, I don't think, but there is a browsing option for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's exactly specifically called, but they can see posts from people that they're not following, and as parents, you can learn a lot from who your kids are following.
Yeah,
so,
if you hit your kid's little search guy right here, you can see whatever they typically look at. So mine is an incredible amount of running content, several things about that guy from Twisters, and Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce content.
Mine is mostly an embarrassing amount of food preparation videos.
Yeah.
I actually got a little bit weirdly into mukbang, which sounds way worse than it is. It's
just people eating a lot of food.
And I can't say people eating a lot of food. It's one guy from Vancouver who is hilarious to watch and eats the greatest looking food, and probably too many sports things. But here's just a quick example, right? So when I was doing full-time youth ministry in the church, which I did for many years, a lot of young ladies and guys, but a lot of young ladies in particular, would come into the office, and I had a co-female youth minister, right? So we would talk together. And they would, a lot of time, like insecurities would come up and like body issues and stuff. And I would mostly stay quiet and listen while the female youth minister talked through those. But like one of the things that like she would regularly do is point out like, who are you following? Who are you following on Instagram? And we know you're using social media, like who are you following? And models and like, I mean, just, yeah, like a bunch of people that say, this is how you should be, this is how you should look. And they're like, I am not those things. And it's like, neither are they actually.
Right.
But so the content you consume, all that to say, is really important for what our kids are consuming on these apps.
Yeah. So quick parenting hack, if you're looking for one, if you're curious what your kid is up to and you don't want to search through their entire phone, just hit that searchy guy and you're going to be able to see like a kind of it's because it's curated to what your kid spends time on. So if your kid's scrolling and they stop for a few seconds to look at an ad about, or a reel about somebody running, which is how I got so many running things, then that will come up more frequently. So if you click on that, you're going to get a good window into your kid's social media browsing world. If they've got a lot of half-naked girls, these are options on Instagram, then this might be time to have a good conversation. It's a really good way to get a quick look into what your kid is up to. One of the things that is sort of a lesser talked about topic, and most parents have kind of talked about Instagram, is the effect that Instagram has on parents. And from a parenting perspective. Now, I don't know.
Ooh, juicy.
So if your kids were to click on your thing right now and look at what you're getting curated, what are they going to see? One of the things that I see a lot of is this like relatable content, right? Where they say like, these are the dumb text messages I got from my teenager, where they ask questions like, was my job at Taco Bell a government job? And you're like, what?
Yes.
Yes, it was. You were the government Taco Bell employee. But like kids asking silly questions where the parents have shared the stuff about the kid online. And your kid can see that kind of thing. So if that's the sort of thing that you're looking at, this relatable content, it has a tendency to sort of shape how you view the people in your life. Now, I'm going to share one with John right now, and we'll have our editor stick it in here so you can watch this. But this is one of those relatable content things that I think is sort of crept into our parenting culture. Okay.
Oh, all right, here we go.
All right, here we go. Are you ready?
Bath time, story time, the pee time, the snack time. I said go to bed just about 1,000,000 times. Then I sat down to write this song and you said, did you notice I mowed the lawn? You are such a good dad. You
I'm sending this to Jody.
such a good dad, such a good dad.
Okay.
Incredible.
I mean, that is a objectively funny video.
Yes. Yeah.
Really playing up,
Whatever happened to the 1800s where that just got done and no one complained?
No one complained. But I feel like a lot of women consume a lot. If you spend too much time looking at that reel, Instagram will serve you up another reel just like it.
Yep.
So when I found that one immediately after, I got, how unfair is it that after we have our friends over and I cook this giant meal for everybody, my husband sits and talks to people while I go do the dishes, and all the women go into the kitchen and do the dishes together. And then the next one is about how, your husband doesn't ever buy any of the Christmas presents and you didn't get a stocking, and it just kind of folds out from there. And here's the thing. I have the world's greatest husband. Like, my husband is the one who does the dishes when people come over. My husband has been taking care of my kids while I've been at conferences. And I'll still find myself consuming a whole bunch of this content, one right after the other, if you spend too much time looking at it, and finding little grievances to just dig into in my life where I'm like, oh, I work so hard too. And it's not objectively true. I feel like this is one of those ways that parents get influenced and we don't notice it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's hard because I actually think that that's funny.
It is funny. It's objectively funny.
It's funny because it's kind of true.
Yes.
Like it is 100% the stereotype that like women do most of the parenting and that guys get praised for kind of doing like the average, right? Mm-hmm. Like a dad taking a kid to a park, you should do that.
Yeah.
But like not a lot of dads do that. And so we get praised a lot more than maybe we should for the little things that most dads should just do, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, I think it can be dangerous to be in that cycle, like you're saying. And here's the question that I would ask. Okay. Here's a question I would ask in particular to the moms, because and at least in my anecdotal experience, not a lot of guys are getting that content on their page. I don't get anything. I get zero parenting content on my page.
I get served these at one specific time of the month.
Oh, interesting.
It's like they know.
That's interesting. Maybe they do know.
They might.
They know in the WNBA. A lot of people making a lot of money on those games. Okay. So here's the question I'd ask, and I mean no offense to this. Every time that because those videos are, I mean, that how many does that have? I mean, can you see how many views or likes or something? That's a viral video, I'm sure.
Them,
okay, a lot of these videos are viral, right? Where'd she get the time to do that? And where that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Where did you get that time? And how? I would ask. Here's the question I would ask the moms: how much screen time are you using a day? I'm gonna be honest here, because like my wife, she's very good about screen time. So I know that when she sends me like I don't get random Instagram reels throughout the day.
Yeah.
I get 5 at once, because that's the 30 minutes while the kids are in bed that she decided she's going to use her the screen time she wants to use that day. Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
She'll send me like really cool, inspiring, this is like something I think our family should do, or here's an affirming thing our family is doing, or here's a funny meme, like that is something she'll probably share with me.
Yeah.
So she does it. She gets I'm not talking about her here, but in general, I would say, how much time, moms, are you spending on your phone? Look at your screen time.
Yeah.
And like, if it's more than 5 hours, if it's more than 4 hours, I don't want to hear you complaining about all the stuff you have to do throughout the day.
Yeah.
Like, that's just normal stuff you do. A stay-at-home dad would do that. A stay-at-home mom does that stuff.
I would think that this is true, like, of all parents. I've talked to teachers, actually, who have been talking about how they're talking to these kids about how addicted to their phones they are. But the example that they're getting is at home. So the parents here's the thing that I think is kind of interesting. Like, yes, if you're a non-working parent, you're more likely to be scrolling Instagram than if you are a working parent. But on the flip side of that, the working parents are coming home, and because of the world that we live in and the way that we're constantly working, we don't really do leisure very well. Me or my husband will be sitting in the kitchen answering work emails, or, replying to the Instagram for the ITFK page, or doing things that are objectively our work. But the kids can't tell. All they see is the top of your head and the scroll. That's it. So if you have work that you need to do, that needs to get moved to a workspace, to an office, to a bedroom. Don't do it in the middle of the house, because that's the example that you're setting to the kids. Not only are you internalizing this kind of yuck message, it's fun. Relatable is fun. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's hilarious. But when you start consuming only relatable content, you start to resent your family.
Yeah.
And it's important that we draw those lines of distinction so that we're not influencing our kids that way. And we need to put limits on ourselves, on our phones. I have an app limit on mine, and my kids make fun of me for it. When my app limit goes off, they're like, "Mom, you were on Instagram for 2 hours today?" And I was like, "I had to post reels for the podcast.
I'm working here.
I'm working."
OMG, who cares? Oh, women. I can't imagine how horrible your lives are. Get a hobby. Get a life. You're a white woman. You have no sex.
I'm a grown woman. These comments on Instagram do not bother me, but your kids shouldn't have to deal with this. That's where Bark comes in. Silence that noise. Bark can help you to cut off the apps, the scary language, and it'll let you know if any bullying like this is happening to your kid online. Get the Bark phone or the Bark app. You'll like it. Yeah. All right. I have one more that I want to show you.
My mom would actually tell me later in life that she did this, but I remember all throughout high school, she would be like, "Oh, I have such a great teenager. She's a great teenager. She gives me no problems. Like, she doesn't have an attitude. She doesn't do bad things. Like, I got lucky. She's great."
Mind games, Mom.
Yeah. And she told me later in life that she read this book about, like, the more you enforce that your teenager, like, is a good person,
then they're going to want to
things, They're going to hold themselves to that standard. So she was like, all of your friends' parents that would, like, be like, "Oh, she's so bad," or "Oh, she did this about their own child," like, they were more inclined to have an attitude, or
that makes so much sense.
Like, break the rules or sneak out or drink underage. And with me, I was like, oh, like, my mom says I'm a good teenager. I am a good teenager. I'm gonna do everything right.
She gave you the trust.
Yeah.
That one lives rent-free in my head all the time.
You love that one.
I do. Well, I do have good teenagers objectively, like, not even as a mind game, just they're really good kids. But the more that I think about that, the more like that relatable one from earlier, because the same way they do with husbands and families, Instagram will do about kids and teens. And you can start to feel like you're being funny, talking trash about your teen. And sometimes it is funny. It's objectively funny. But like, this was why I had to get off of Twitch, was because I didn't want my part of it, I didn't want my kids as teenage years to be live streamed, because you can't edit out the parts that they would be ashamed of, right? And they need to always hear that their parents love them. That's the kind of reel that I love to see, and that I spend a lot of time on purpose to try to curate my feed. You comment on it.
You know, that's really interesting. I love it. I will say this, like, my oldest is 9, almost 10, and then 8 and 4. So, like, not a teen yet, right? But my oldest, I affirm him like crazy. And for some reason, he still often will identify with like, I'm the mistake that I made. I'm mean, or, you know, not nice, whatever. You insert, you know, 8-year-old word that you want there. And I'm like, man, how is he even thinking that ever when I affirm him more than I ever could? Jody's great with him. How does that happen? But it is interesting. I am going to try to maybe, I don't really think about, I don't know if we ever talk about our kids publicly where they can hear us. He's always listening. So I'm very aware, like if we're having dinner with another family, like that, I'm not ever saying anything bad about him. But I don't think I've ever intentionally said amazing things about him in public. I'm not ever saying anything bad, but I'm going to start doing that now.
Yeah.
I think. Because he hears it a lot one-on-one, and he hears it a lot like 2-on-1 when Jody and I are talking to him. But I don't know how often he hears that like in a group.
Yeah. I think that's great advice, the talking to people, because it's just like Yelp reviews, right? Where you're more likely to leave a negative one if you feel that way. But the positive ones are so impactful. And I think that's great for kids.
And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be true. Right? Like your kids
They're gonna know you're lying.
Well, yeah, and your kids are not the product of their failures and their mistakes, right?
Yes.
So if they're 70% of the time making good choices, they're a good kid.
Yeah.
So like, say it.
Yeah. I know this has been a long episode and I want to close it out, but I want to just try to put out there to parents, if your kid's on Instagram, start sharing reels with them. Like, it is a great way to have this shared experience. We've been talking a lot about putting things on the big TV, taking small screen experiences and making them a shared experience. This is one of those ways that you can do that. Sit down and scroll reels with your kid. Like, look over their shoulder and look at it. Send them the things that make you happy about them throughout the day. If you get one that's like, hey, this is you, and it's like, you know, you're so cute or whatever, like, send this to a person who's a great dad. You'll see a lot of those. Or send this to a great kid. Start to find those, pause on them so you get more of them, so you get better options. Send them to your kid and let them be in like a little real relationship with you.
Oh my, you said it.
It's so cute though. Like, parents just want to say like the Instagram is so bad, and it can be, but be a part of your kids' life. Be a part of that experience, and it can be positive for both of you.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because Jody and I, so our kids are really into AFV right now, America's Funniest Home Videos. I hate that I call it AFV, but that's what they call it. And I hate America's Funniest Home Videos. Like, I really...
They're not videos anymore.
Yeah, it's... Okay, well, so...
They're not American.
Yeah, what are we doing here? We should do an episode on AFV, because it's interesting.
Okay.
But my kids are obsessed. They love it. If they get a show and they want to watch one show a day, that's what they're choosing right now. So then Jody started like doing, we call like the Blevins family videos, BFV. And so all the kids are snuggling. I'll come up from work at like 4:00 and they're all snuggling and they're just watching old videos that she has on her phone of them, like being little kids and being funny. And it's so cute. And they love it. And they feel like they're present with Jody while she's on her screen, but they're sharing a positive experience on the screen and not like, I'm scrolling and not paying attention to you. Since then, I have been like, well, I just thought to myself, like, there's nothing wrong with my kids watching cooking reels with me or cooking TikToks with me.
Yeah.
And so my kids who like would never watch a cooking show are watching minute-long cooking videos with me. And it's so fun. And I'm like, would you try that? Would you try that? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to make it. And now you're going to try new food.
Yeah.
But same kind of thing. Like, I'm sharing. They're not old enough to have those platforms yet, but they're sharing in it a little bit. And it's like, they love it. Hey, Dad, can we watch 5 minutes of TikTok, like cooking TikToks? Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Instagram doesn't have to be your enemy, and you don't have to completely cede it to the culture. You can be a part of it. And I think that you guys are doing great. Parents, get in there. Enjoy that TikTok or that Instagram with your kid.
Use it for good.
Use it for good. Exactly. Hey, If they liked this advice or they liked this episode, where could they find more?
isthisforkids.com. We're available everywhere that you listen to podcasts, including a beautiful VOD on YouTube where you can see our faces and smell our breath.
VOD is a
Smell-o-vision.
Twitch term. He's ridiculous.
Isthisforkids.com.
Check it out on Is This for Kids or over on Instagram, ITFK podcast, since we're talking about Instagram. I'm MrsRuvi on Twitter and Instagram.
At Bearded Blevins on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, fantastic. We would love to have you with us, but there's so much content out there for parents to need to go through.
Jonathan Bearded Blevins.
I'm Katie, MrsRuvi. Let us help you decide.
Is This for Kids?